In this video, I want to teach you how to play the queen's pawn game in a decent way like Caruana, Magnus Carlsen, or any other grandmaster. This is also for beginners and intermediate level players. I mean, anyone. So this is basically for serious players who want to level up and improve their opening. So if you are such a player, kindly bring your eyeballs closer to the screen as well as your toes. Here you simply start with d4. Now, in my last two videos, I discussed a very interesting gambit that you can play against the queen's gambit declined and also against the French defense. But one of the questions that I got was, what if black doesn't play d5 and pawn to e6, but instead play knight to f6, which is called the Indian defense? In case you are not aware of the d-Madame gambit that I just talked about, give me a second. This is where you can start with d4, and after d5, you simply go c4, pawn to e6, and hey, right away you go pawn to e4, sacrificing a pawn so that you can start developing all your pieces based on this misplaced pawn. So if you didn't watch this interesting video, you can check it out in the card up above or simply in the description down below or in the comment section. Anyways, back to our Indian defense. So knight to f6 is the top played move in the Masters database on move 1, and unlike d5, which fights for the center in traditional fashion, Indian systems reflect the hyper-modern approach to opening theory. You simply go pawn to c4, which is the normal variation. And here black is going to play e6. That's what Indian defense players do. Now the main idea is to play pawn to e4. So you have to play knight c3. Yes, you can play knight to f3. That's the Bogo Indian stuff. I want you to play knight c3 here. The whole idea is to play pawn to e4. So in this position, black can either play bishop b4 or simply pawn to d5. We are going to look at both. So if bishop b4, well, I recommend that you simply go queen c2. Remember, e4 is the main idea. So if they castle shot, for example, that's when you go pawn to e4. And here you're just going to be implementing all your e4 ideas that you already know. Knight to f3, pawn to h3, bishop e3, e.g. if pawn to d5 by black, well, now you go pawn to e5. And now we are following the game that was played in 2020 June between Fabiano Caruana versus Wesley So in a clutch championship. Knight e4 by black, well, you simply go bishop d3. You want to take the knight. So if pawn to c5, which every strong player plays to attack your d4 pawn, well, don't be confused. Simply play knight ge2, just like in the d-Madame gambit, so that if c takes d4, we can now take back with our knight, and that's good for us. Again, if d takes e4, attacking our light squared bishop, well, we simply take the knight on e4. That's why we developed our bishop on d3 to attack the knight. If queen takes d4, well, I just recommend saving your pawn for positional sake. For example, play bishop f4. The problem with bishop takes h7 check is that after king h8, black will be threatening to capture that pawn. So just go bishop f4, holding on to your e5 pawn. That's a very strong pawn. Or you're going to see them play pawn to g6. Well, now you can simply castle short, putting your king to safety. And after knight d7, double attacking your pawn on e5, this is where you play rook ad1, chasing that queen away. And only then do you play rook fe1, which completely defends your pawn on e5. Because after knight takes e5, you can simply take back with your bishop, and after queen takes, it's not the g6 pawn, it is the b7 pawn, you guys, and the rook on a8. Alright, so back to our starting position of the Indian defense normal variation, where we play knight c3, intending to play pawn to e4 next. Still looking at the bishop b4 line, where we play queen c2. But hey, we just finished looking at what to do after castle shot by black, and then we go pawn to e4. Hey, but what if black doesn't castle short and plays bishop takes c3? Well, the whole idea is to take back with the b pawn, so that we still maintain the possibility of going pawn to e4 if black castles short. Don't worry about this. But if they play d5, well, whenever you see d5, just take. Simplify the game. If e takes d5, start thinking of the minority attack. 3 against 4 on the king side, and you have few pawns on the queen side. So this is where you start playing your chess, beginning with bishop a3, stopping black from castling short early. So they play knight c6 here, intending to go knight e7 so that they can castle short. Well, take advantage of that and develop your pieces as quickly as possible so that if they castle short, you now go knight e2. By the way, putting your knight on f4 is more practical than putting it on f3 because you still want to keep the possibility of pushing pawn to f3 in case of knight e5 by black. So go knight e2 and then they'll play rook d8 and pinning their knight, after which you just castle short. So if knight g6, position is about plus 1.3 in favor of white. And here you can see that the game is not on the king side, it is on the queen side. So this is where you start playing your game, starting with c4. I'm not teaching you to memorize moves, but if anything, just get the advices that I'm giving you in this opening. So bishop e6, you keep your bishop pair, and then you're going to start playing on the queen side. E.g., after b6, you go rook fc1. All you want is just to win one free pawn to win this game. Anyways, let's look at something else that black can do. So back to the bishop b4 line once again, where we play queen c2, and now instead of black castling short or taking our knight on c3 with his bishop, what if black decides to play pawn to d5 directly to stop us from playing pawn to e4? Well, just like I said earlier, whenever you see d5, just think of trading your c-pawn with that, so that if e takes d5, you now think of playing pawn to e3, but you can't play this because your bishop on c1 will be unhappy. So you have to develop it first with a tempo, and after pawn to h6, you still maintain the pin on the knight so that if castle short, now you can play e3. Knight to f3 is also not much of a stretch. Let me show you. For example, whenever you see pawn to c5, at worst, just take that pawn and simplify the game. If bishop e6, you go knight f3 to stop pawn to e4. I mean, logically speaking, if knight b d7 by black, you now go bishop d3. Let them take the pawn on c5 so that you can castle short. And I mean, even if they take your bishop pair, you are just playing normal chess here by following the simple plan that I'm showing you against the Indian defense. Anyways, enough of the bishop b4 line. Let's look at what to do if black plays pawn to d5 immediately, stopping us from playing pawn to e4. I don't know how many times I'm going to emphasize on this point, but whenever you see pawn to d5, the simplest I can advise is c takes d5, you guys. Even though you can play other moves, because if knight takes e5, you can simply go pawn to e4. Mission accomplished. So they have to take with their e-pawn, after which you want to play pawn to e3, but your bishop will still be unhappy. What did I say? Develop your bishop outside of the pawn chain so that if bishop e7, you can safely play pawn to e3. And now think of developing your kingside pieces. That's how we play chess. They'll castle short and you just have to remember, play bishop d3. Like what we do in the Stonewall attack. We want to develop the light squared bishop as quickly as possible. Pawn to h6 is what they play. You go bishop h4. Never think of taking on f6 because that would put black's dark squared bishop on a perfect square. So pawn to c5, the main pawn break. They just want to play c4 or take on d4 so that they mess up your pawn structure on the center. So at worst, you can go knight ge2 so that if c takes d4, you take back with your knight. But hey, once again, play d takes c5. And after bishop takes, you develop your knight on e2. Knight c6, I mean, castle short. What's so difficult about this? Bishop e6. And now looking at this position, all you have to do is to put your rook on c1 to start controlling the c file, because rooks smile on open files. And later on, you're going to play bishop b1, hide that bishop so that you can play queen d3 in the near future. You take on f6 and mate on h7 in some lines. And this was in the immediate pawn to d5 line. But hey, do you know that you can still go back to the dimmer dam gambit? After black plays the immediate pawn to d5, instead of taking on d5, well, you can just surprise them by playing pawn to e4, especially in blitz games, because they normally take with their d-pawn, after which we now start developing our pieces on the basis of black's pawn, which is on e4. And you already know the ideas that I showed you in my last two videos, you guys. And hey, this is all for today, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If at all you did, please don't feel lazy to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if at all you haven't already, cause that's how you encourage me to keep on making more wonderful videos just like this one. And check out my courses at www.casperchess.com, which are very affordable at the moment, and there you can also sign up for my free masterclass and get yourself a free mini course on the rat defense. Alright, until next time.